Hello, my name is Benjamin Baker. I'm the executive chef at Miraval Austin Resort and Spa. And we're here in the Made-In studio, and we're going to be walking you through a wonderful recipe of our Spring Pea Gnocchi, which is going to be very light. It's going to have the wonderful flavors of the spring peas, and it's a great way to elevate your mealtime for your family when you see how simple it is to put together. Spring pea is something that we get for a very short time in Texas because it does get so hot here, and we like to feature them in as many different dishes as possible while they're around. We have here 5 potatoes. These are russet potatoes. We're just gonna oil them up just a little bit on the skins, and then we're going to poke in a couple holes, and we're going right into the oven with these. Set to 425, and we're gonna put it in for 50 minutes, just until they're done. Whew, these got some heat to them, so we're just gonna let them cool just a little bit, but not too much, because we still want them to be nice and soft, and we don't want the starches to seize up during the cooling process. So we have our nice little ricer here. This is a great little ricer for home use. Once you've opened up your skins, you can pretty much just squeeze the potato right out into the ricer. But look at that. Nice, beautiful potatoes coming right out of there. If you don't have a ricer at home, you could also use a food mill. So next up we have the peas, and in this case I'm gonna use a food processor because I found there's a little bit of a challenge using a ricer. Beautiful bright green color. They're starting to break down into a nice pea powder. So it's nice and pulverized. That's gonna mix very well. So once we have our peas in our mixing bowl, we're gonna go in with our rice potatoes. And here we're just gonna fold these together just a little bit before we add our other ingredients. And this is a great stage to add any other seasonings or flavorings that you want to enhance your gnocchi. In this case, we have a little bit of sea salt, some Parmesan cheese, and we're gonna bind this all together with 1 egg. Drizzle that all around. Mix it all together before we add our flour. The reason we're doing this is because if you agitate the flour too much, it will make the gnocchi a little bit tough. And you can see as this is pulling together, it's taking on a really nice green hue. And I'm going to add in stages. We're looking for a nice malleable dough, something that's not too sticky, something that we can easily mold. Now, as we mix this together, once you start to feel a little bit of tension, it starts to get a little bit more challenging to pull together with a spatula or a spoon. That's when I just like to go into it with my hands and just kind of pull that in together. It's really more like massaging it. And once I've got all that flour incorporated, I can see it's just a little sticky, so I'm just gonna use a little bit of our leftover flour just to dust, and it's ready to shape. We're gonna need a nice little tool for that. That's this nice gnocchi board. Essentially, it's just a piece of wood that has these nice little grooves in it. That's gonna give us a little bit of texture as we roll it down the board. And if you don't have a gnocchi board, do not fear. You can just cut them into dumplings and blanch them just like you would gnocchi, and we're going to show you all of that in the next few steps. This is going to help us keep the gnocchi from sticking. And we're just gonna cut this into 3 portions, relatively the same size. And what I like to do is just roll it out, just like you're making a little snake. And it's just nice, even pressure. I usually start in the center and kind of work my way out, trying not to crush it. So I want it all to be as uniform as possible. It does not have to be perfect, but the more uniform it is, the more evenly it will cook. If it's springing back too quickly, you might want to let it rest for just a few moments and let that gluten relax. And from here, I'm just looking for roughly, 1.5 inch dumplings. And I'll dust my gnocchi board just a little bit. Take your little piece of gnocchi, and I take my thumb and I just press it down there. Then I use my fingers and just roll it. And what you see is you get these nice little grooves in your dumpling from the gnocchi board. And you can also make these ahead of time. These freeze perfectly. You can keep them raw and freeze them, or you can just cover them and hold them just for a few hours. In your refrigerator, I wouldn't recommend holding them more than 1 or 2 days. In this case, we're just going straight from the board directly into the water. Your blanching water should always be as salty as the ocean. Now we're just gonna gently Drop the dumplings right into the water. You wanna make sure you leave enough room for your gnocchis to float around a little bit, and we're going to let them cook through. This is gonna cook roughly 2.5, maybe 3 minutes. Because there's egg in here, that egg's gonna cook a lot faster than the starch is going to expand, and that's gonna hold these gnocchi together. If you're not using any egg, you probably wanna cook them just a little bit longer just to make sure all of that starch expands through. And once they float to the top, what I like to do is give them another 30 to 45 seconds to make sure they're cooked all the way through, and then we can remove them from the water. Once we have our dumplings cooked up and ready to go, we're going to make a nice little garnish, which is called a frico. Essentially what it is it's just a nice hard cheese that's been toasted on a flat plane, and it turns out to be more of a cracker. Keep this on a nice medium-low heat and use a pan that is not going to stick. In a case like this, these ceramic pans are perfect for this application because the cheese is going to release very nicely from the bottom of the pan. We're starting to get that nice golden brown all the way around. We're just going to gently slide this out onto the pan. Look how easily that removed. All you need to do is wipe that clean. And this is gonna add some really nice texture and a little bit of crunch to our dish. Now it's time for the final stages in our plate up. And in this case, you want something that the gnocchi is going to release from very easily. And this ceramic pan is going to give us that. Add a little bit of browned butter. We're just looking for a nice coating. This is gonna add some really nice caramel notes to our dish. So I'm gonna go in with 11 gnocchi for one order. So this recipe should get you about 4 servings, maybe even 5 depending on how large you cut your gnocchi. And you can see it's already picking up some of those caramel notes very, very quickly. Just give it that little bit of crunch, and right underneath that crunch is gonna be the nice tender dumpling. Now I'm gonna just go ahead and turn some of these dumplings over a little bit so we get some even browning. We have some peas and we also have some spinach. Now we're really just looking to heat the peas through and to wilt the spinach. We don't necessarily wanna cook the spinach down all the way. Now that we're at that stage, you can see where the spinach is nice and wilted. We're going to remove this from the heat. Gnocchi's ready to go. All of our components are ready for the plate up. A wonderful spring pea pesto, and this really kind of punctuates the spring aspect of this dish. It's peas all over the place, it's green all over the place, which is exactly what we're looking for in springtime. We're going to take our little dumplings and place them around. Now this pesto has very little oil, so essentially it's a full serving of peas. In this case, we're going with 11 dumplings, and we're just going to take some of our wilted spinach leaves and dress them around. And then we'll add some of our sauteed whole peas. And then finally, we have this beautiful Asiago frico, so delicate to the touch, see it just snaps very easily. What I'm gonna do with that is I'm just going to stand them up, and we're just gonna add that little bit of texture around the dish. And then we're going to go in with a little bit of these micro basils. Finally coming in with some Parmigiano-Reggiano to go around the plate. And there we have it, my friends. Pea pesto with pea gnocchi. Now it's time to dive right in. I'm going to make sure I get all of these flavors all together. Just permeates with that flavor of the peas, the basil, the Parmesan cheese, the frico, all of that coming together, that texture. It's a really, really nice bite. Well, I really hope you get a chance to make the most of it while peas are in season, but don't let that slow you down, because we can make this with just about any starchy vegetable. This is a great base recipe that you can add to, subtract from, just have some fun experimenting with it. My name is Benjamin Baker from Miraval Austin Resort and Spa, and we'll see you soon.